So tell me about when you went to Afghanistan. You know, was reminded of a story where the school would be out, like maybe on Christmas vacation. Charlie Pruitt came back and he said, I went to Afghanistan with my wife on a motorcycle. And all the kids were like, what? What years were you in Afghanistan?
Well, this was much later. I went to, Charlie was putting together a trip, our first Christmas in Tehran, to Afghanistan. And I was going. I'd signed up, paid my money. We were taking this trip with a number of Iran Zamin teachers, and going to spend Christmas and New Year's in Afghanistan. This is before, obviously the Russians came in and all that, the Soviets. And I came down with I don't know what it was. It was, at one point they thought maybe it was cholera. Obviously it wasn't, but I was deathly ill for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh boy.
And I will remember being taken by Jill and John Jones to a hospital, and they checked me out and did x-rays, and I finally got stuck in a corner, and no one came to see, and I went over and I said, I've seen these doctors and they took x-rays, and I don't know, no one's told me anything. They handed me these x-rays and then said, well, go over there and read them. And I'm going, what?
Really?
And then I finally got a doctor to come out, and he said, Dr. Plexico, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you are a very sick man. I thought, well, okay.
Oh boy.
A lot of help here. But that was, I always wanted to go to Afghanistan because it closed up right after that. And so I never made it. And then when I was with NDI in Uzbekistan doing political development there, they wanted to create a new position in Afghanistan, which was the largest program that NDI had in the world.
Yeah.
And I was to really coordinate all the political activities, women's political activities, youth, the parliament, the whole thing. And my job, basically, the top thing was to interview the political leaders and to build relationships with them and to try to entice them into political training. Well, political party leaders in Afghanistan at that time were warlords. So
yes.
I spent my time going and meeting with warlords, which was fascinating. But this was 2011, 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, 2011, 2012.
Yeah, right in the middle of all the stuff happening.
Yes, yeah. But it was
Richard, the gentleman who passed away, Richard, the big diplomat, was he there at that time? Holbrooke, is that his name?
Holbrooke. He came through, but he was not based there at the time. No. But we were in such a situation where I had a really interesting situation where my son-in-law was not my son-in-law at the time. And he and I were both in Afghanistan at the same time. And he was at the embassy, and I was with NDI. So we got to know each other in a way that most father-in-laws and son-in-laws do not get to know each other. And we were the NGO in the unsecure part. So he was not allowed to come to where I was staying because it was too unsafe. It was too dangerous for anyone to come. But I could go visit him in the embassy.
Yes.
And so we had one episode where bombs went off and there was a lockdown. And I'll never forget, some of his friends, they had to go through the cafeteria in order to get to their lockdown spaces. And a couple of them grabbed a couple vodka bottles on the way through, and this is how they got through the lockdown period. And so
now, was that in your facility or in the embassy?
No, that was in the embassy. Yes.
Were you at the embassy at the time?
Yes, I was visiting him at the embassy. And
oh boy, what a story!
We had some experiences, but it was unique situations, let's say, for father-in-laws and son-in-laws. But I want to say, that you escaped
somewhat precarious situation in Iran, but you went to
I
Afghanistan.
know, what can I say?
Yeah. The bug of travel bit you in Iran, and I'm so impressed by your tremendously, varied and accomplished career.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'll give credit where it's due, which is that experience. As 2.5 years I had in Iran, I'll never forget. I mean, I went out. I'd had a year of law school, obviously, college graduate, but just kind of a good old Southern boy who had an interest in things, but really didn't know about international.